2 levels up, kids. Come on.
Oh, we shouldn't have drunk as much as we did last night. Never mind. It's fine. Anyway, shall I crack the champagne open?
Do we have a special sound effect? Are we recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, let's just... that could be the open introduction, can't it?
Yeah, so welcome to The Problematic Gaze.
Yeah, with me, Dr. Lee Arnott.
And me, Dave Moore. Now, before we go any further...
It's a special occasion today, listeners. Because...
we're together in the same room.
Together in the same room? Not under a duvet.
No, we're not in bed together. No,
not under a duvet.
Fine.
Hands above the duvet, please.
Yes.
Yeah, how exciting. So, we have a little bottle of bubbles just to celebrate.
We do, and this is the final day of my birthday month. It's the 31st, now we're recording this.
Gosh, milked it for a month.
So,
well done.
We're going to... Oh, God, I can't open it.
God. Anticlimactic, you can't get it open.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Hey, how lovely.
There we go. I've got the champagne coupes.
Yeah, they're lovely.
Rather than the flutes, so we can't knock them over.
No. They're lovely.
Oh, well, you can't knock them over. That's my main priority.
You say
there
that.
We go.
Cheers, darling.
Okay.
Cheers.
So this is to celebrate me turning 40.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we're together in the same room.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Oh, that wasn't a very good clink.
Well, I feel like we're in the Avengers. Let's clink right in front of the microphone.
There we go.
Hello. Yeah, we did have a little bit to drink last night.
This is Kill or Cure.
This is Kill or Cure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the bubbles, got your nose really quick,
do.
Don't they? I feel pissed already now.
See you next week, listener. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. That was Problematic Gaze.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot. So, yeah, who are we?
So,
literally, who are we?
Because you do it, don't you? You got it down pat. Shall I try and attempt it?
Go on.
So, welcome to the Problematic Gaze with me, Dr. Lee Arnott.
And me, Dave Moore.
Yeah. Each week, we take a piece of culture...
Pop culture,
and look at it through the problematic lens. Is it problematic? If so, why? And I can't remember the rest.
And what does that say about society and culture then? And what does it say about society and culture now?
Now.
Good.
You do my bit then.
What's your bit again?
Oh. Obviously not as important as your bit.
What is your bit again?
So, before we take a deep dive...
All right, thank you. I'll do it. I'll do it. Before we take a deep dive, we like to put the thing into context. So what was in the charts at the time, what was on the telly, what was happening in the world and the news at the time, just to give a little bit of background onto whatever it is we're examining.
Yeah,
see,
well done.
I can do it.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow our socials, please do, but we'll tell you that at the end.
Yeah, X and Instagram at Podcast Gaze,
yes.
Gaze.
So, how are you, Dave?
I'm hungover.
Yeah.
I'm really, really hungover.
Me too, actually.
I vaguely remember a Spice Girls medley in the kitchen at about 12:30.
Yeah.
Ending in goodbye.
Yes.
With our good friend Lucy, who came down.
Yeah.
And had dinner with us.
Can I just say, I genuinely felt like we were the Spice Girls.
I did too. I was baby.
So into it.
You were a mashup of
yes.
Scary and Mel C.
Yes, I was.
And our friend Lucy was posh.
And I was a bit of ginger as well.
Yeah, a bit of ginger.
I was doing a lot of heavy lifting for 3 of them last night.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
And we were actually quite harmonious.
I think we were. And your husband filmed it. And I have to say, watching it today, I don't disagree with that.
No.
I thought there were some bits where...
we could have been the Spice Girls.
We could have been.
We could have covered for them.
We could have covered for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was what was happening last night. It's been quite nice weather. Tomorrow we're going to tell a listener what we're going to go and see tomorrow.
Tomorrow we are going to see De La Soul and Sister Sledge in concert. Yeah. I can't believe that. And when you were out with the dog earlier, some De La Soul was on the radio, and I was like, oh, I know this one as well. So that's 2 songs I know.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have recovered by then, have a good sleep.
I've had quite a notable thing today. I was just, pardon me, that was the bubbles. Just belching quietly. I don't know if it's normal. I don't really know how I feel about it, but Tuti Gatwa has posted something on Instagram with his top off, and it's done something funny to my down below bits. I have to say, I feel a bit. I'm not sure how I feel about having dirty thoughts about Doctor Who, because I've never had it before. I never fancied David Tennant. I never fancied Matt Smith. I mean, I might have fancied Willie Hartnell. No, I'm joking. But it's a new experience for me, and it feels a bit weird.
Well, that's all right.
And I mean, I have to say, David, or listener, if you just get to Tuti Gatwa's Instagram and, oh, hello.
It's all right to have a little twinge.
Yeah, a little twinge.
Prove you've still got it.
I mean, God, if I went in the TARDIS with this doctor, well, I would never leave it, love, I tell you.
Do you know, when I was a kid, I used to make a birthday wish, and it was to either that I could be Superman,
right,
or that the TARDIS would materialise in my living room, and the Doctor would, and I would just run in the TARDIS and I'd go on adventures with the Doctor.
I had that as well. Mine was, I'd go down to the garages at the bottom of our estate and go behind them, and the TARDIS would just be there. It's very common for gay boys to have that, you know, because the Doctor Who has a big gay following, and people have tried to work out for years, and one theory is that little gay boys and girls often feel alone and that there's nobody else like them. And the Doctor was a character who they know would just accept them for what they were, and you could take them away from all the shit that invariably you get.
That's really interesting, because it's even like, it was even a young age when you obviously, you know, you didn't appreciate what sexuality was then, but you always knew that there was something possibly a bit different about you that no one else could understand.
Yeah, I always knew I liked boys from as long as I remember, and I also knew that it was, quotation marks, wrong because of my homophobic grandparents and my homophobic father. So you learn to keep it to yourself, don't you? You learn to not bring it out, and you learn to hide it. So, and that becomes a way of life. So
I was a bit later.
Right.
It was George Michael. I was looking at a picture of Cher and George Michael. So
wow. I mean, there's a double gay whammy
either or. So it was Cher that turned me gay, and George Michael. Cher that pushed me over the edge, and George Michael that shielded the blow, so to speak.
A euphemism. Yeah. Well, my mother was the catalogue agent for the area. Oh yeah. So she used to get 3 or 4 different catalogues.
Kelly's catalogue.
Yes, and the underwear pages in the catalogue was the source of many masturbatory fantasies when I was young.
This is after half a glass of
bubbles. Wow.
Oh my God.
It's all coming out now, isn't it?
Oh, after yes, the catalogues were a source of, for me, not masturbatory pleasure immediately, but the first gateway into
cock.
Acknowledging that, those bodies look nice compared to the ladies in their bras.
Yeah.
The man in the box shorts, or the tighty-whities with the big chest.
Yes, lots of chest hair on those models back in the day.
Lots of chest hair. Yeah. Do you prefer it smooth or shaved?
I vacillate. I'm easy either or. Yeah. I mean, in the 80s, Dexter and Dynasty and Tom Selleck were my absolute crushes, and they were both very hairy. But hairy was a thing in the 80s. It was seen as a thing. So, but I'm easy peasy.
Dexter was probably around about the time that this program that we're going to watch.
Yes.
He was a big heartthrob, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Michael
he was
Nader.
Gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous. He was. Yeah. He was married to Alexis in Dynasty.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, listening, he was bloody beautiful, man.
He was lovely.
Having watched Dynasty relatively recently, I realise it's about 1987 actually when male beauty standards start to kick in, because Dex before that season has a hairy chest and also has a really hairy back.
Oh, yeah.
But then the season after, in his bed scenes with Alexis, the back hair has gone. So there's clearly something
Do you think Joan Collins had it written into a contrast that Alexis wouldn't date men with hairy backs?
I think maybe something. I mean, they got on very well, I have to say, but we're starting to get male beauty standards coming in, which is an interesting thing to talk about. And we must talk about it one day, because this time in the 80s is when the male body starts to become objectified as much as a female body in a way that it never has done before. But we're really digressing here.
Yeah. Hallelujah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, hallelujah. Thank fuckity for that, honestly.
I used to fancy Stephen in...
Dynasty, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
He was the gay one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was very beautiful.
Yeah, he was. Anyway.
Just going to reach for my champagne.
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay, so what are we talking about this week?
Well, today we're talking about an episode of The Golden Girls. What is your relationship with the Golden Girls? The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls.
I don't know if it's the champagne or all this talk about
it's the transference between the hangover and the reintroduction of alcohol in your system.
Yeah, it is.
There's the big clash there.
Oh, it is.
Take your top off.
Take your top off. I have got a t-shirt on underneath, thank you.
So, right. Golden Girls,
yes.
Okay, I have a massive relationship with the Golden Girls from very early age. From its first transmission, used to be on the Channel 4 on a Friday, and we always, not always, but the majority of the time, used to go up to my grandma's on a Friday, so my mum and dad go out on the Raz.
Right.
And my grandma used to look after us. We used to sleep there, and it was on about 10 o'clock in the evening. And I always remember looking forward to it. My grandma loved it, I loved it, and it was kind of like a thing that we used to watch together. Later years, lots of reruns on telly, and then I got all the DVD box sets, etc. So, yeah, absolutely love it.
Yeah.
What about you?
The same. I remember watching it, looking forward to it on a Friday night. Loved it. Me and my cousin loved it. We chat about it, and it was just really refreshing, wasn't it, to see women of a certain age behaving in the way they did. It was funny, it was sharp, it was warm. I just really enjoyed it. And then I've seen a couple, like it's on Disney Plus now, I think. And watching them again, they're still funny, and they still have a warm glow. And quite frankly, after the abomination we watched last week,
Fat Slags,
it's been a real palate cleanser.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we kind of look into the news of the day, etc., let's just talk about what Golden Girls actually is, because I mean there might be some listeners who have never heard of the Golden Girls.
Yes.
So the Golden Girls, and this is from Wikipedia, is an American sitcom created by Susan Harris that aired on NBC from 1985 to 1992 with a total of 180 half-hour episodes spanning 7 seasons. It starred 4 women, Bea Arthur, Betty White, Rue McClanahan and Estelle Getty, and the show is about 4 older women who share a home in Miami, Florida. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Sitcom, kind of multi-camera setup, etc., all mainly set around one home.
Yeah, live studio audience,
that kind of set. Think Cheers, think Frasier, think Friends, any that kind of setup.
Yeah, but think Mrs. Brown's Boys.
No, don't think Mrs. Brown's Boys.
I try to remove it from your brain as quickly
taint it with that thing. But yeah, so that's Golden Girls in a nutshell.
And we watched an episode from 1987, didn't we?
Yes.
What season was it?
Season 3, episode 11.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll post a link to that for people who want to listen to it. And also on YouTube, there are loads and loads of clips of the Golden Girls, which I think we should post for people who, to get an introduction to these characters, 4 very, very different characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Which we'll talk about a bit later.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So what was happening in 1987, and, I was just thinking, I was looking at the news events of the year, and bloody hell, it's always fucking miserable, isn't it, when you look back at the events? And I even Googled 1987 happy events, and there's just nothing. There's a couple of things, but wow, the stuff that makes history invariably tends to be fucking miserable. And there's some stuff in this year, again, in Britain, we have 2 hideous disasters. One's technically not in Britain, but it has a lot of British people dying. The Herald of Free Enterprise, that ferry capsizes just after it's left a port. I think it's in Belgium or Holland.
Zeebrugge, wasn't it?
Zeebrugge, yeah. And 100 hundreds of people die, get trapped in this ferry underwater. I remember seeing the images on the news of this ferry on its side with the back doors open because they hadn't shut the doors properly as it was leaving. So it was just filled with water and tipped over. It's horrible. And do you remember Ferry Aid?
That rings a bell.
Yeah, it was like Live Aid. Everything has a charity record at this time. Everything. So any disaster, you do a charity record. And Ferry Aid was actually, I couldn't believe it, the list. I was looking at the list of who was in it. It was Let It Be, basically. They did a cover of Let It Be. It was number 1 for 4 weeks. Paul McCartney, Boy George, Karen from Bananarama, Nick Kamen, Paul King, Andy Bell, Pepsi and Shirley, Kim Wilde and Nick Kershaw, who look pretty much identical to each other. Kate Bush was one of the vocalists.
She never does anything like that, does she?
No. And the actual chorus, if you go on Wikipedia and just see who was singing in the chorus, there must be 50 famous people,
Wow.
ranging from EastEnders stars, Page 3 girls, the rest of Bananarama.
Wow. We'll have to maybe have a look on YouTube and post some of that. Kim Wilde lives around the corner from here.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Yeah. That's the circles you mix in now.
I know.
Dave.
I know. I've never met her, but she does live around the corner.
Yes.
So it's basically quite an exclusive area that I live in.
Yes. And then in November, we have the King's Cross fire, which is just, it's horrific,
hideous, wasn't it?
And I remember a boy at school. His sister was living in London, and he didn't know if she was all right because she used King's Cross. But it just seemed. Do you know what it showed me? Because it was you could smoke on the tube, and back in those days, I never got the tube because I lived up north, obviously. But the fact that the idea of smoking on the underground, the idea it had those wooden carriages and those wooden escalators, and it was the fact that somebody just dropped a lit match through the escalator and it set fire to all the rubbish underneath it.
Yeah.
And apparently this jet of flame shot up just straight into the ticket hall. And it's that I think it led to the understanding of how fire works in a particular way that it behaves. And it just goes to show people might mither on and moan about health and safety, but actually nowadays that just wouldn't fucking happen because London Underground were accused of being really complacent. They never cleaned the decades of shit underneath these escalators, and it just was one of those things that seemed inevitable in retrospect, but a bit pissed, darling. But I felt like I need to put my teeth in.
Look, we're talking about something really serious now.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Let me just top you up.
Go on, darling. Cheers.
Right, should we move away from the King's Cross?
Yes, there's more hideousness. There's some quite good things actually. Thank you. Terry Waite was kidnapped in January. Remember him?
Yes, I
do. Archbishop of Canterbury's envoy. He didn't get out until 1991.
He was chained to a radiator, wasn't he?
Yeah,
for a lot of the time.
He was,
he used to sing to himself. I mean, you can't imagine what that's like. How many days of captivity was he in?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
I've been in one room.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
AZT is approved by the United States.
Or AZT, it was...
Food and Drug Administration for the use of treatment of HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
That was apparently quite a hideous drug. Well, I mean, obviously it kept people alive for longer, but side effects were... Yeah, and also it was only fucking the Reagans had resisted anything to do with AIDS for so long. I can't remember what tipped them over. Nancy Reagan was good friends with Rock Hudson, another Dynasty alumni, and even when he died of AIDS, she still fucking refused to do anything about it because it was only the gays that were dying. They used to do drug runs to Mexico. Madonna did it apparently a few times to get drugs for her friends and carry them over the border, etc.
Wow.
It's just unimaginable now, isn't it?
Yeah. And in Britain, the first HIV ward opens in a hospital.
Right.
In 1987. Previous to that, if you had AIDS and then you were going to die, it was a death sentence. But also, you would be isolated. Would be kept out of contact with any other patient, not allowed to have anybody come and visit you. If anybody hasn't seen It's a Sin, the Russell T Davies drama about it, please watch it because it's really important and relevant and historically accurate. And at this point, apparently, the statistics were that one person was dying of AIDS a day in the United Kingdom.
Right.
So, again, it's just kind of this thing that's just happening. But because thus far it's really only been the gays, no one gives a fuck about it.
Was this the year of the advert?
Don't Die of Ignorance.
Die of Ignorance.
Yeah,
John Hurt
I think it probably was.
I don't know if everybody remembers the. It was kind of like a big stone tablet, wasn't it? That kind of came crashing down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the start of the kind of the scare, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Which obviously we were a bit too young to understand,
but still
what that entailed, etc.
Fucking terrified of that advert, you know. There's a new disease going. Like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And you thought you could get it off toilet seats. You thought all this shit, you know.
Knives and forks.
Yeah.
Toothbrushes. All that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is when Princess Diana would go around and shake HIV and AIDS.
And still, you know,
patients' hands and stuff.
And no matter what you think of Princess Diana, the fact she did that was so important and really changed perception in a lot of people. And you know, good on her. That's what I can say.
I've got one.
Go on.
I'll just say it and then won't dwell on it. But it's the Moors murderers.
Yes.
On July the 3rd, 1987, Greater Manchester Police in England recovered the body of 16-year-old Pauline Reed on Saddleworth Moor after her killers Ian Brady and Myra Hindley helped them in their search. So it's almost 24 years since Pauline was last seen alive. So for people who don't know, the Moors murderers, quite prolific and infamous serial killers
of kids.
Murders of children. And that was in the north of England, where me and Lee come from. Admittedly, quite far away, the other side of the north of England.
Like Manchester way, isn't it?
It did kind of resonate throughout the whole of England, didn't it, really?
I mean, because of when the killings took place, they became iconic, if you like. And if you've seen that image of Myra Hindley with the peroxide hair, just her face looking at the camera, they're just iconic images, aren't they?
Yeah.
Actually, one of my mum's exes used to be head of prison service, and I was at a prison that had Myra Hindley and Rose Weston. Right. And apparently Myra considered herself a bit of a celebrity and kept expecting to have special treatments and she actually said to him at one point, "Don't you know who I am?"
Just to lighten the mood a little bit, the day after, on July the 4th, a court in Lyon sentences former Gestapo boss Klaus Barbie to life imprisonment for crimes against humanity.
God, I know.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
And in June that year, the Tories win the general election.
Well, I mean, it just goes from one outrage to the next, doesn't it?
Maggie gets in for the third time. Now, this is the first time you have black MPs, actually. Diane Abbott gets sworn in this time.
Right.
Paul Boateng and Bernie Grant were the first three black MPs. But I was really surprised. Who else is a new MP that year? Anne Widdecombe. John Redwood. And who's still floating around? Enoch Powell.
He's still in Parliament,
still floating around. Albeit he's got a seat via the Northern Ireland, being an MP in Northern Ireland. But I can't believe he's still around in 1987. I mean, clearly his power is diminished, but...
Yeah, they just cling on, don't they? Yeah. Was it ever thus, though? I mean, look, who had to go to Clacton to get a seat in Parliament this time round.
Exactly.
Has he been back to... Oh my God, the champagne's kicking in now.
Has he been back to Clacton?
Is that an Amy Winehouse album, Back to Clacton?
Back to Clacton. Has he fucked? Of course he hasn't, grifter. The DLR opens in July.
Oh.
Britain's first automatic train service with no driver. And in August, we get the Hungerford Massacre. Remember that? I mean...
Oh my God,
it's a horrible year. 16 people shot dead in a little village in England.
Like Orion, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and to be fair, after that, the gun laws immediately changed in this country. So you can have a gun.
Yeah.
And, hello, we're not America, so, you know...
Okay, so Lester Piggott was a jockey. He was jailed for 3 years for tax evasion. That was a big story, wasn't it? In October 1987.
Yeah, it was. We had the Great Storm in October.
Oh, yes.
And I remember saying to my parents, I think it was the same year there was a satellite falling to Earth, and I was really panicking about it falling on Morpeth.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I remember saying to my parents, that storm's going to hit us. And the next day, we got up and my dad went, that storm did hit us. It was obviously down south, but, you know, massive storm. And unfortunately, We start to get more and more of them now, don't we?
We do the 10 a penny these days, or 2 a penny, or whatever you call it. But back then, it was a big deal.
Yeah. What came as a surprise to nobody that year, Prince Edward left the Royal Marines.
Do you remember that after a few weeks?
Yeah, 3 months he was
3
there.
months.
3 months. I mean, who could possibly have envisaged?
Well, why did they send him in the first place? I know that if I joined the Royal Marines, I'd be out on my ear within the next couple of weeks, whatever.
That'd be a couple of hours, I think.
Yeah. once you'd done the rounds in the showers, or with your loofah. With
my loofah. Look, who's bending over to pick up the soap? I am. We can edit that out, can't we, Johnny?
This is Dr. Liana. It's kind of problematic.
Social historian. Got to find a real hot flush.
The male menopause, darling. Right, can we move away from
I've just
bad news?
I have got some quite good news, actually.
No,
I haven't got some quite good news. But it's not actually quite good news at all. But Patrick Troughton, second Doctor Who, dies in a hotel.
That's not good news.
No, I know. In a Chicago convention.
That's fine.
He was a bit of a player, you know. He had 2 families.
Really?
Yeah, the 2 acting sons, Michael and David, I believe, are from his 2 different families. And Fraser Hines, his co-star, remembers him going with his pay packet to one of his families, and they didn't know about each other. These 2 families had a wife and a lover, and with the kids in each. Yeah. So he was always paranoid about working.
That you could do that kind of thing in pre-internet days, couldn't you? Or the good old days when you could have 2 families.
Okay, 4 bits of froth to end the year on.
Go on then.
Rick Astley releases Never Gonna Give You Up in July. I mean, Anthem, obviously. November, reports of a new youth movement, acid house raves in warehouses start to permeate the news. Now, if you wanted to go to one of those, listener, you would have to get a special code and go and stand by a phone box and wait for the phone box to ring, because obviously it was all underground movement. So there's no text messaging. 26 million viewers watched Hilda Ogden's last episode of Coronation Street on Christmas Day that year. And the 29th of December, a young lady called Kylie Minogue releases a single called I Should Be So Lucky, following up The Locomotion, and thus begins another stellar...
Whatever happened to her?
I don't know. Kylie Minogue? Not sure. Anyway, that was 1987. Bit of a miserable one.
It was. It was jam-packed here, isn't it? There are some years that you do. That you just are just like very thin on the ground. News, noteworthy of news.
Yes, but that was fairly horrific, that one.
Yeah. All right then. Shall we glide over to Barb?
Yes.
To the TV. What we're watching on TV.
Now, I've actually got what started that year on, and there's some quite good debuts which we definitely need to talk about, because French and Saunders have their first series in 1987.
I had the box set of all that as well.
Me too. Blackadder the Third starts. What's your favourite Blackadder?
I think maybe Blackadder the Third. I loved that. Was it Georgian Regency?
That's the third.
Yes, third Georgian Regency. Yeah, I like that because I thought Hugh Laurie. Yeah, I thought Hugh Laurie was great in that. Actually, but I mean, I like them all apart from the first one, which is a little bit weird.
The first one's very dark. Yeah, I remember watching it as a kid, and it quite freaked me out.
I think it's because it's from a period of history that isn't very well known.
Right,
but the others, like the Elizabethan age, the Regency age, the First World War. Yeah. They're more identifiable, aren't they?
I think my favourite was Elizabethan, just because Miranda Richardson was so amazing as Elizabeth I. In October that year, Going for Gold begins, the staple of many skiving off school days. The time is right. It's time for you to play your game. People waving.
I'm waving at the microphone.
Yeah. We have Elsa from Denmark.
Inga from Sweden.
I mean, it never surprised me that the people who weren't from England couldn't understand Henry Kelly's Irish accent,
What is my name?
Yes. The Growing Pains of Adrian Mole starts in 1987.
Yes.
Yeah. Follow up to The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole.
Julie Walters played the mum, and then she left, and
Lulu takes over in this series.
There's a big controversy as to why.
There was a little bit of controversy.
Probably just scheduling.
Yes, I think it probably was. Through the Keyhole begins this year.
Who lives in a house?
Who could possibly live?
David, it's over to you.
Very good at impressions.
I am good. I do a good Kenneth Williams as well.
No, you don't. We've had that one. Crashing on. The Dame Edna Experience. I used to love that.
Yeah, New Statesman.
Was that the Rick Astley one?
Rick Astley.
Rick Mail, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The Charmer with Nigel Havers, I remember.
Nigel Havers.
Yeah, Nigel Havers.
Did you used to like Nigel Havers?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Even though he's really short, as I've realised. Yeah, he's probably tiny. Network 7 begins on Channel 4. The attempt to get to the youth market. I used to watch it thinking it was cool. It was only 14, didn't have a clue. Wurzel Gummidge Down Under.
No, pass me by that one.
Really? Well, I think Damon and Debbie.
Oh,
Brookside spin-off. Yeah.
I worked with her years later.
Did
very,
you?
Very lovely.
Was she?
Very nice, yeah.
I think he's very nice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's still loads of shows. That's Live, The Two Ronnies, Doctor Who, Coronation Street, they're all still on, obviously, aren't they? Jim Will Fix It's still on telly.
Yeah.
One Man and His Dog. 321 is still going, which I couldn't quite believe. Grange Hill is going. Terry and June, Blankety Blank. You know, all these shows are still...
Yeah, so let's have a look at the top 10 of the year. So, and actually, interestingly enough, they all revolve around Christmas, well, mainly. So, EastEnders is top. 28 million people are watching EastEnders. This is kind of for the year. An average of 26 million are watching Coronation Street. Question of Sport is the third most watched show.
In February, 19 million people.
Oh my God.
I used to watch it.
I used to watch it, but not know anything about it.
No, I didn't either. But Wednesday
boring.
night was the night my mum went to the club to play pool.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad would watch Question of Sport, and the butcher's van used to come around, and people used to get their meat and he'd sell crisps, and Dad would give me a couple of quid to go and get like 6 bags of crisps. We'd watch Question of Sport.
Wow, that's a very vivid memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pop man used to come round my grandma's.
My dad was the pop man.
Was he?
Yeah, well, he was a milkman. He used to deliver pop as well.
Did
So,
he?
yeah, you always have plenty of pop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't get that these days, do you?
You don't.
Sometimes get the fish man.
Right. We didn't have a fish man. Oh, we did have a fish man occasionally. We had the bloody coal men still come round our street when I was a kid.
Oh, God.
We had coal bunkers in our gardens. They'd
Rag
dump
and
the coal
bone men
in.
as well.
Rag and bone men used to come around, yeah.
That community spirit's just all gone.
All gone,
it's not,
yeah.
things ain't what they used to be.
Thank fuck for that. Number 4, look at that. The big movie, Christmas Day, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. 19 million people watched that.
Yeah.
And number 5, the Grand Royal Knockout Tournament.
We need to do an episode about this in its
Yeah, we do, because it is quite astonishing if you watch it. First of all, that was the thing Prince Edward organised.
Tell listeners what it was.
It was like, there used to be a show called It's a Knockout, which was a game show. People from around in teams would do stupid games against each other, presented by, later found out, paedophile Stuart Hall, famous for his laugh. And Prince Edward thought it would be a good idea to have one with the royal families. And so him, Sarah Ferguson, Prince Andrew, and Princess Anne were team captains with quite an impressive array of stars. Margot Kidder, Christopher Reeve, who are currently filming Superman 3 in London, they're in it. Wow. It's got such a random mixture of people.
John
Jane
Travolta.
Seymour, John Travolta, with Annika Rice. And so they have this thing, and it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But in terms of PR for the royal family, it is an absolute disaster. But 18 million people watch it. And speaking of Annika Rice, she's Challenge Annika, number 8. That's the one where she went to that Romanian orphanage. Do you remember?
Really?
Yeah. And Ceausescu had just been toppled in Romania, and they're just finding out all the horrors of what the communist regime had done to people.
Right.
And there were these orphanages where
the
these
kids
were just left and dumped in there. And oh my God, it was harrowing telly. But yeah, I mean, it'll be all right on the night. It'll be all right on Christmas night. Again, a lot. It's just how big Christmas Day telly was. You know, these things in the top 10. 28 million people, 26 million people, 19 million people all watching telly on that Christmas Day, 1987.
Yeah.
Actually, the 80s is, and especially around this time, is the time when Britons have historically watched the most telly in history.
See. Yeah, because there's only 4 channels. There's none of this Sky bollocks and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
You watched what was on TV.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Wish You Were Here with Judith Chalmers.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean,
there was a TV show where Judith Chalmers was a lovely presenter who used to go on holidays and report on exotic locations and stuff. You used to watch it from your freezing cold northern England home, and everything looked so exotic, didn't it?
And mercilessly lampooned by Victoria was, hello, and this week I'm in Bogdan Regis, where we're this kind of brilliant.
Fantastic. Shall we? Okay.
Have a look at the charts. What's in the charts?
Yeah. Shall we have a look at the official singles charts from 29th of November 1987, which was the week that our Golden Girls episode was broadcast. Was that a little burp?
It was. I'm so sorry. It was.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll edit that out.
I tried to hold it in, but it was going to go through my nose. So.
Right. Before we do the charts, do you want a little top up?
Yeah.
Where's the bottle? Oh, there it is. That's going down a treat, isn't it? I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but we're having a good time.
Having a great time.
Yeah. First rule of podcasting: engage your audience.
Yeah. First rule of podcasting: you're never as entertaining as you think you are when you've had a drink.
Exactly.
For the information, David's just licked the top of the bottle.
I didn't want it dribbling on the couch.
God.
From John Lewis's couch, you know.
Right. What's in the top four? China in your...
I was going to bring some nibbles up, but there's nothing worse than hearing people eat.
Oh, God, that would be disgusting.
No.
Yeah.
So I had my Scotch egg before we came up.
You're so dirty sometimes, honestly. That is like a slag of a snack.
You could take the boy out of the north, but...
I used to love a Scotch egg, though, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
oh my God, yeah.
China in Your Hand, number one. I quite like
song.
the way that we don't have any kind of intrigue as to what is it at number one. We just start with number one and work our way down again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's from 1987. It's not like...
Yeah, it's not like everyone's going to be hanging off the edge of their seats.
No. I absolutely fucking hated number two. Got my mind set on you, George Harrison. I hated
That's
that
because
song.
you hate Liverpudlians in general.
That's
You've
not
told
true.
me that.
That's not... You're such a liar. You're such a liar. I've got nothing against the Scousers, thank you. Some of my best... Never mind.
Never Can Say Goodbye, number five, the Communards.
Oh.
Do you know, I know it's not the same song, but Small Town Boy, I was thinking this the other day, I'd quite like to be played at my funeral, you know.
Would you? It's very autobiographical, isn't it, for lots of the gays, yeah. Yeah, it's a great song. I mean, what a groundbreaking song that is.
Yeah.
And heartbreaking as well.
Really heartbreaking,
yeah.
Anyway.
And they're so important, the Communards.
Yeah.
In terms of that visibility again and that the kind of gay rights and we don't want to keep banging on about the gay things because we aren't, two problematic gays, but they're really important.
They are really important. Along with
important.
Erasure, because they were very visual, weren't they?
Yes, they were. Yes,
they were kind of pioneering stuff, just like out there and unapologetic.
Yeah. Shaking Stephen, number 7.
Still,
well,
you say
floating around like a bad fart, Shaky.
No matter what year
he's there. He's like one of those turds that keep rising to the top, and how many times you flush. You know what I mean? He's
like, do you want to make those eyes at me for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had the time of my life. Bill from Dirty Dancing. I was thinking the other day, Dirty Dancing is a bit of a problematic film, isn't it? She's basically 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Swayze is clearly 40. And I'm not surprised. The parents don't want her hanging around with him.
Yeah. Well, look, Lee, I mean, remember the Pretty Woman episode where you basically took a knife and slashed through the heart of a film that is much beloved by many a teenage boy and girl of the 80s.
I'm unashamed of it.
So we ain't doing Dirty Dancing anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So we need to reclaim our audience after that.
It was my Nana's favourite film.
Was it?
And she was obsessed with Patrick Swayze in a way that was quite unhealthy for a 52-year-old woman. And she used to watch, because she was the queen of the pirate films.
Yeah.
And she had a copy from the club, obviously. And she used to watch, there's a scene where Patrick Swayze gets out of bed with no clothes on. And I saw her rewinding it, playing it, rewinding it, playing it slowly. try and catch a glimpse of his cock.
Well, that's what you had to do those days, to rewind it and...
Or the catalogues, or the catalogue
Yeah.
pages, the underwear, so...
Very, very limited.
Yeah, very
None
limited.
of this instant access stuff you get
God,
now.
no, you were lucky if you found a porn mag across the column when you walk in the door.
Exactly.
Honestly.
No, we're deprived.
I'm depraved. Loving the First Degree, Bananarama, my girls. Oh.
I remember a faint blast of Bananarama last night when we were doing our dancing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Invariably. That was Siobhan's last single with them.
Was it?
And also one of their biggest selling hits, Loving the First Degree. You Win Again, the Bee Gees, great song. Love Letters, Alison Moyet, I love that song. Faith, George Michael.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, well, this is about the time when George Michael did things to me. I blame him for the way my life has panned out.
And two new entries at number 39 and 40, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, Kim Wilde and Mel Smith, and then Fairy Tale of New York.
Yeah, Kim Wilde lives around here, you know.
Oh my God, second mention of Kim Wilde. Raise a glass to Kim Wilde.
Kim Wilde.
Yeah. If
Legend.
you're listening, Kim.
Legend.
Come and be a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come and be a guest.
And what was
Otherwise
the one
we'll come
you
round your
noticed?
house.
Yeah,
No, we won't.
Like those two vampires from Salem's Lot of the window.
Ken, come on the podcast.
Can you sing Kids in America?
Oh, actually, can I just make a passing mention to number 46, which is Voice of the Beehive, I Say Nothing, because I loved Voice of the Beehive. They had two very kind of successful albums, well, moderately successful albums, but when you latch onto a band or something that no one else does, and I was absolutely devoted to them, and I never got to see them live, and I always think if they ever reform, I would just go and see them. I'd be at the front.
They were one of the kind of bands that I knew I probably would like. I just never really got into them for some reason. I'm so sorry. Pump Up the Volume at number 57, that's going down. That was
number 66, Rent by the Pet Shop Boys.
I remember that one.
I love you, you pay my rent.
Bad, Michael Jackson is released. The album's out in August that year. And I think it's still one of the biggest selling albums ever in history.
Yes, although we tend to gloss over Michael Jackson now, don't we?
Isn't it funny, though, that he, for all that dodgy history, has not been cancelled? Even to the extent that Madonna did a little section on him and a tour. Yeah. It's really weird, isn't it? Why has he been not exonerated, but...
I just think it's something, because he was so big and so emblazoned across everyone's culture, everyone knew about him, just to kind of go down that road and think about him in that way, which by rights we should. It's too difficult.
I suppose that's...
So everyone just glosses over it.
Yeah.
It's funny the way the mind works, isn't it? And, popular culture works.
Because really, we should be back to him like Jimmy Savile, shouldn't we? Yeah. I think you're probably right with that. I think probably the whole idea of Michael Jackson eclipses what actually Michael Jackson was.
And to a lesser extent, I suppose, Prince Andrew. There's a certain amount of royalists in this country who would not... Yeah. They just wouldn't even consider it. It's like, no, it's not true. It's a left-wing conspiracy. And it's like, oh, okay.
I know, we'll just get his mum to pay his legal fees. Oh, sorry, we'll pay his legal fees because we paid her the money for it. Bugger off.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, before we get too absolutely twatted, should we talk about the Golden Girls?
Yes, shall we? Okay, Golden Girls.
Yes.
Shall we... For the listeners who've never seen Golden Girls, just chat about each character individually before we go into the episode.
Yeah.
Because I think it's quite important, because these four characters, the four women characters, were, I think, possibly the strongest written and distinguishable characters in sitcom history. And I know that sounds like a very profound statement, but I do think the magic, the chemistry, the glue that binds this show together are these four women, and they're hugely different, finely crafted characters. Yeah. So let's talk about Dorothy first, played by Bea Arthur.
Bea Arthur looks a bit like John Pertwee.
Is that the first thing you're going to say about her?
It's always I couldn't. Whenever I saw the Golden Girls, I was always looks like John Pertwee. Okay. The same like white bouffant. But Dorothy Spornack. Is a teacher. She's the dry. She often gets the best lines.
Yes.
She's the queen of the side eye.
Yes.
The queen of the comedy put down.
Yeah. She is kind of like, I feel as though Dorothy is the glue that is the kind of like the binding force of all 4 characters. I'm not saying that she's central because each episode would kind of focus on a different character.
Yeah.
But she seems to be, I think she's the audience's eyes into this because of her wry witticisms,
Yes.
her scathing put downs.
Yeah.
She tells it like it is.
Yes, she's the one there are most YouTube compilation clips of. You know,
Yes.
Dorothy's best put downs.
Yeah. There's a running joke that Dorothy can never find the right man.
Yes.
She's got an ex-husband, Stanley,
Who's useless.
like a continuing to be. They're divorced, but he continues to be a millstone around her neck.
And of course, they live with Sophia, who is Dorothy's mother.
Character number 2.
Golden
Girl number 2.
Yes, and ironically, the actress who played Sophia was 1 year younger than Dorothy in real life, but is made up to look 20 years older.
Yes, Italian from Sicily,
Yes.
has regales a lot of stories from Sicily. Her catchphrases, picture this,
Yes.
Sicily 1922.
Also, a queen of the put down, and in a way, it's maybe more so than Dorothy because she gets to put all of them down, including Dorothy as well. But clearly, there's a big bond between Dorothy and her mum, Dorothy and Sophia. They live in the house of Blanche Devereaux, character number 3, who is a Southern belle.
Yes.
And also likes a shag.
She does. She's the minx, the man-eater.
Yes.
Of
And
the show.
is absolutely allowed to be.
Yeah, impeccably well dressed, turned out.
Yeah.
Has a different day almost every episode, but unashamedly so.
Yeah.
Not painted out to be a slut or
No,
a slag.
never shamed for it.
Yeah.
Never shamed for it. I mean, Sophia might have a little go at her for it, but she's never shamed for it. There's never a sense of this is what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And also Rue McClanahan.
Yes, that's the actress who plays.
Was the same age as us. Well, same age as me. 28. When 51. When they were playing this role.
Yeah, she's she goes on several dates. She's also kind of like she can be quite scathing in her vocabulary towards the other women sometimes, but I feel there's just she brings an air of excitement to the show, a sexual thrill.
Yeah,
it's just quite effervescent.
Yeah,
always kind of positive.
Yeah,
for the main part.
Yes,
like you say, Southern Belle. She always talks about a big daddy, and that's very kind of in a Scarlett O'Hara kind of way, which has been subject to criticism in the past for being quite problematic, for relating to kind of like the Southern past, etc.
Yes,
the
clearly.
Confederacy, slavery, etc. She kind of harks back to that kind of romantic notion of the South.
Yes, yeah. Which is,
it's
problematic. Yeah, it is. Although the character, that's never overshadowed the character. It just happens to be that.
No, but it's challenged as well. It's challenged in the show.
Yeah.
And then we jump to
the final
Golden Girl.
Yeah.
Rose Nyland.
Rose.
From St. Olaf.
Yeah. And she's a bit dense, Rose, isn't she?
She is a bit dense. She's innocent.
Yeah, she's innocent. She's gullible.
A really good contrast to Blanche's Jezebel kind of nature, isn't she?
Absolutely.
She's a bit more straight-laced, virginous, although it turns out that still waters run deep with Rose.
Yes, they do.
She's notorious for having a kind of a dubious, humorous vocabulary, wordplay, but it's all kind of made up, isn't it?
Yes, And also, Rose will tell a story that people just end up looking at her going, is she for fucking real?
Yeah.
She just seems nuts sometimes.
She is nuts. I think Rose might be my favourite character.
Blanche was always my favourite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, I'm drawn to a slut, for want of a better word. I don't quite know why they imprinted themselves on my behaviour patterns for the rest of my life, but there you go. Maybe Rose did the same to you, darling.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a good boy, me.
Naive and gullible, that's what I'm saying.
I think, so I've got a theory about the Golden Girls that we are all This is why they're all so relatable. We are all one of the Golden Girls at one stage in our life. I think we all start off as the innocent, naive Rose.
Right.
With kind of rose-tinted spectacles. Everything's wonderful, but quite rather simplistic.
Yeah.
Then we turn into Blanche.
Yes.
Which is where we, okay,
Yeah,
let's...
Oh, yeah, the brakes are off.
Yeah, the brakes are off. We venture down to the big wide world, to the big smoke, don't we?
Yeah.
And
we migrate from the catalogue underwear pages to
real life experiences.
Yeah.
So we put it that way. So yeah, we all go through our Rose stage,
and then Blanche stage,
and then our Blanche slutty stage,
and then into Dorothy.
I think we turn into Dorothy then as kind of not, I wouldn't say bitter and cynical, but with a kind of more worldly wise approach to stuff, and we see the younger generation arising as we did prior to that, and we can look upon them with the world wisely.
Yeah. And then we end up as Sophia, who doesn't give a fuck because they've seen it all and done it all. Yeah,
she's basically she hasn't got long for this world, so she doesn't really give a shit, and she's just gonna.
So you're basically the Golden Girls, like 4 stages of the human experience.
Yes,
that's
I think
so profound, darling.
Thank you.
We need to record more of these with champagne. Let's get me a top up, darling. Yeah.
Well, I've thought that, and I'd like to say I've always thought that, but actually I just thought about it today.
That's the bubbles, darling.
Yeah,
that's the bubbles.
But yeah, so this show is great. So we watched an episode.
Yeah, now this was an unusual episode because it was one of the few ones that has the girls in conflict with each other. And usually that doesn't happen. But the setup of this episode is there's clearly been an argument the episode before, and they've gone to see a counsellor to try and help them resolve their differences. Yeah. And there follows a series of flashbacks. Are they real flashbacks?
I think they are real flashbacks to the previous episode. I don't know.
Because I know the end of the season they would do a flashback episode as a cheap money saver. Yes. They all did it. But I think genuinely these were filmed for this story. But anyway, so you get a series of flashbacks, and at the end the counsellor says you're incompatible, you shouldn't live together. Which of course means that the girls go back and decide they're going to carry on living together.
Yes, as far as story devices go, it's a pretty flimsy kind of resolution to it, because Sophia basically just says, well, that's life, everybody always, it's not all roses, we do have a little bit of conflict in our lives from time to time, but friendship's the most important thing. And everyone says, you're right, friendship is the most important
let's
thing.
Get the cheesecake out.
Let's get the cheesecake out. End of episode. So a lot of episodes do centre around them sat around the kitchen table eating cheesecake.
Yes, doing that very classic thing of making sure no one's sitting in the fourth part of the table so the camera can see them all.
Yes.
And that's they only sit on one side of the table.
Well, that's the restrictions of a multi-camera setup, darling, without getting too technical of my prior TV knowledge.
Yeah.
But I think this episode is season 3, episode 11. Is quite a good entry into the Golden Girls, because at the start of this episode they all sit down on the therapist's couches and they introduce themselves and who they are, and I think it's a really good introduction into who they are as characters and what their setup is, etc. And I think it's good as well because it gives this flashback mode to have scenarios where each individual is challenged in some way. Each of the characters is challenged, so you get a good kind of fleshed out version of each character.
Blanche is accused of being selfish, and the flashback is that Dorothy's really ill, and Blanche is going on a double date, and Dorothy's supposed to be going with her, and Blanche won't accept that she's really ill. Dorothy's really ill, and that's basically it. It's quite flimsy, as you say, but that's basically it. But again, there were some last little insights into Blanche's character because she met this guy at a petrol station, and she said, "Didn't you write her number on his windscreen with the heel of a shoe or something?"
And there was another great Blanche moment where they all introduced themselves to the therapist. And she said she shook hands with the therapist and said, "This might not seem important right now, but I am double jointed." Yeah.
Again, she's allowed to be sexual. And we've talked before about in our Madonna episode about how women of a certain age are not allowed to be sexual, and it always amazed me actually that all the characters had sex lives. Even Sophia had a sex life, and this is 1987, this particular one, but it's just the late 80s, and we've talked about how progression isn't linear.
Yeah,
and
sorry to interrupt you. You may have just had a truck go past. I did have to open the window to the podcast studio because Lee had a hot flush.
I still am. I'm absolutely baking.
Oh, you are quite chilly.
Sweating.
Male menopause is real.
Andropause, it's called.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the male menopause.
Okay.
Called andropause.
I'm
But
really
we don't talk
sorry.
about it because we don't want to
No.
compare it at all to the menopause, which is horrendous.
No.
Let's not even go there.
And it is mostly alcohol related.
It's
to be honest
completely
with you.
alcohol related. My body is literally trying to process all the alcohol I drank last night and this bottle of champagne now.
Which we've finished, by the way.
Yeah, we have finished. That's
So
why
you know-
I'm sweating.
Oh, I'm really sorry I interrupted you mid-flow.
Yeah, so, we were saying that, progression isn't linear. But the fact that these women are allowed to be sexual creatures in the 80s and the 90s when it started, in a way that seems to have been put back in the cupboard again. Women aren't allowed to do that.
Well, yeah, we do seem to be kind of going through an age of new Puritanism, in a way. But yeah, there were several elements to this episode, because we are the problematic gays, which I think we should kind of look into once Lee stopped burping.
So sorry. I just can't help it. I can't help myself. I've got to say... Anyway, yeah.
Are we at the stage where we need to look at the problematic elements of it? Or
Well,
are we
there's
still...
one very, very
Oh, my
horrific, which I
God.
wasn't prepared for, actually. A little bit of racism in the Golden Girls.
Oh, I thought you were going to refer to the point where Dorothy said, until Madonna has a hit movie.
Oh, no, that wasn't it. But your face was a bit of a picture at that moment. He was... If you want to see the dictionary definition of highly disgruntled, you could have just looked at your face when Dorothy makes a wisecrack about Madonna never having had a hit movie. And, face like he's just swallowed a wasp, let me tell you, listener.
I thought it was quite a low blow, to be honest with you.
No, I was referring to the little racism from Sophia.
Oh, that's right.
In one of the segments, they're talking about the neighbours who are clearly Asian. They're called the Chungs. There's a reference to eating dog meat.
Well, eating dogs.
Yes, yeah. And it was just a little bit,
Yeah, well, the reference was that Blanche and Rose had just watched the Aliens movie.
Yes, yeah.
Which obviously came out in 1986, I think, with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. 87, Aliens.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And Blanche and Rose were scared, so they jumped into bed with Dorothy and said, oh, we're frightened about the aliens. And then there was a quip to...
Which basically said the aliens were the neighbours who were
were the Chinese neighbours.
Yeah.
I.e. aliens, as in illegal aliens.
Yeah.
And then there was a reference to the Chungs eating dogs,
Yes.
etc. Which are, obviously, you watch these programmes, and in 1987, that would have just passed us by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through a modern slant.
Yeah.
Grossly offensive.
It was a little bit, oh, God. And then they make some comment about Sigourney Weaver not wearing makeup as well, and that she doesn't look good because she's not wearing makeup. It was a bit like, girls, no.
So, although we love it and we look at the Golden Girls through rose-tinted specs, just looking at this one episode.
Yeah. But they're just, again, we've said it before, they're reflecting the common kind of... They talk about Birgitta Nilsson's breasts at one point.
Yes, they do.
And they make some joke about she had breasts like Birgitta Nilsson, apart from the fact that hers moved when she ran, i.e. slagging off Birgitta Nilsson for having big boobs, and also that they're not real boobs. And it's written into it that women can be just as much of horrible against each other as men can. It can be just as misogynist as men can. It's all part of how...
Absolutely. And there was also a couple of references to kind of sexual abuse, sexual assault, wasn't there? Where Rose mentions that one of her co-workers or her boss at work had been overly amorous with her and actually pinned her down on a couch and started kissing her.
Yeah.
And it was all done in a kind of way of Rose saying, this happened to me, and I know this kind of thing happens, but what do you think I should do about it? Rather than in a case of the 2024 version was, he sexually assaulted me and I am going to report this to the police.
Yeah. Yeah,
it
was kind of thrown away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And again, that speaks volumes about, as we've discussed before, how women's bodies and their sexuality were just fair game for being touched and being, manhandled, being thrown to a couch and, doing all this. And it was just accepted as one of those things, wasn't it?
Yeah. There is, while we're talking about the problematic elements of the Golden Girls, There was criticism in an article I read in Variety, which kind of listed the top 25 episodes of The Golden Girls, that it was quite notable for its lack of black and Asian actors, unless there was a storyline which was dedicated to that needed a black or an Asian actor to play that role, because it served the story.
Yeah.
So there is that element to it, but I think, what was it ever thus in the 80s that was the case in most shows, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, was it ever the case until really recently, to be honest, you know, especially in sitcoms, you know, think about Friends, you know, that never had any people of colour, never had any LGBTQ characters in it, you know, unless they were the figures of fun. You know, so it's only, I mean, you had The Cosby Show, I guess, was the antithesis of this, the antidote to this, but the majority of TV was still very white. And I mean, the Golden Girls did feature an LGBTQ storyline, didn't it? And it did.
I mean, we're kind of like done it in a reverse flip way, because we've talked about the problematic elements first, but I think what should be noted is that the Golden Girls was quite well renowned for its progressiveness.
Yes.
For all its elements of problematicness, if that's actually a word.
Yeah.
But it featured stories about people with HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
It featured probably stories about homosexuality, lesbianism.
Yeah.
It featured stories about immigration in a positive light, which was a big problem back in the 80s, especially in areas like Florida, so close to Cuba, etc., South America. But portrayed immigrants in a sympathetic light. Yeah. So it was actually known as being quite a progressive show, and also it features 4 females in the lead roles
of a certain age.
Obviously confronted ageism in a big way as well.
Absolutely. So I mean, and we can pick fault with anything, can't we? You can find stuff that is, oh God, you wouldn't say that now. Of course you can, but I don't think we're here to bury the Golden Girls by any
no,
because
we're here to celebrate it. I think.
And because it is kind of one of those important shows, especially if you're LGBTQ, that was a bit like Doctor Who. Was one of those shows that you felt that if you went into that house, you'd be accepted by those women. Yeah, and that was really, again, important. There are obviously unquestionable bits in this episode, but there are with anything, as we've seen, you know. Yeah. We can't hold a prism up to it.
No.
We can comment on it. We can't try and excuse it. We can't try and explain it, but
yeah, I think that's the whole premise of our podcast, isn't it? That we're not aiming to cancel anything.
No, not at all.
We're here to kind of acknowledge the problematic elements of it, but ultimately to celebrate the positive elements to it.
And also, you touched on it before, but it's a joy to watch a show where the cast are so clearly in sync with each other, and are able to read each other and able to riff off each other, and to, obviously at the height of their powers, you know, they're eminently watchable, all 4 of them.
You talk about the fat slags again.
Yeah. God, I hadn't thought about that hideous film for at least an hour, you bastards. I like the fact that Blanche, at the end, they're getting, let's get the cheesecake, let's get the whipped cream, let's get the chocolate sauce out. And I think Dorothy says, look, we need to take a photograph of this to celebrate. And somebody says, oh, I've left my Polaroid. And Blanche says, I've got a Polaroid in my bedroom, under my bed. I keep it there with the whipped cream. And it's like, you're my kind of girl, love, aren't you? My kind of girl.
We've all been there.
But that whipped cream not being in the fridge, that'd be minging.
Yeah.
Be minging. When I was a student, one of my friends had decided to try and recreate a bit of 9.5 Weeks, you know, when they get a bit frisky with food substances.
Yeah.
All there was in the fridge was shrimp primula. I came downstairs the next morning, and the living room, I was like, what's that smell? It's disgusting.
Well, it depends where she spread it. Was there any need for it, really?
Let me tell you, it was 2 boys, and he said it took him fucking weeks to get it out of his pubic hair. So, for the record, listeners, if you want to get a bit fruity with a bit of food, shrimp primula, a soft cheese in a tube, It's not the way forward.
What about Heinz sandwich spread?
I like Piccadilly. I spread a Piccadilly on your bits. Do an episode. The worst things you could possibly use in sexual games.
Oh no, yeah. Well, you know, we do have a time limit.
I used to love sandwich spread.
Oh, I did. Well, it was cheap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You could buy a cheap loaf of bread when you were a student.
Yeah.
Or when you were
45
and had no money. It was a cheap meal.
Yeah, it was.
I think we should end on one note because I think this episode of the Golden Girls has one of the best lines out of the whole series, 180 episodes. It's Rose saying to the other women, blow it out of your tube and burbles.
Yes. Blow it out your tube and burbles. What's she call? She calls Blanche one of those stupid Swiss names, and they said, "What does that mean?" She says, "It's what it is when dog do turns white."
Yes,
you know, you don't see white dog do anymore, do you?
No.
But yeah, I just think that was brilliant.
Yeah. Can you stop burping?
I'm
please,
so
now?
sorry. I know we're nearly finished. Please, can we hurry up?
Lee, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Well, next week I've got a question to you.
Yeah.
Do you treat Alexa and Siri with respect?
I always try to because you never know what they might do back in the future.
Do you ever shout at them?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, you're a fool because the AI is coming, and next week we're looking at the Terminator. I know. I'm excited. I've never seen it.
You've not?
Never seen it, love. Never seen it. Strangely, wasn't I into Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No,
You know,
well,
kind of...
I've seen it loads. It is a really favourite film of mine, and I'm really pleased because it was your turn to choose something, and you've decided. I was begging Lee to do the Terminator for ages because I think AI is so prescient. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased you've decided to choose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fucking scary, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm always super polite to them because I like to think, you know, when they've decided that humanity must be wiped out, that at least I might be at the back of the queue. Like, oh yeah, he was nice that time in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I've never shouted, your husband, dead.
My husband has just got a real hate relationship with Alexa.
And she trolls him, to be fair. She does troll him. Yeah. And that is, she's gathering information.
Speak as you would like to be spoken to.
Yes.
That goes for AI as well. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah.
All right, then. So, next week, Terminator. Yeah. I think you're going to enjoy it, Lee. I'm not just saying that. I haven't got a romantic remembrance about Terminator. I think it's a brilliant film. Hopefully, we won't have repeated the Pretty Woman performance.
Let's hope not.
No, but until next week on The Problematic Gaze, thank you for bearing with us. Go and have a glass of champagne now.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. Shall we open another one now?
Yeah. Can you wind me before we start?
Yeah, hang on.
Rub me back. There we go.
Bye.
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 Bye.